Hey, Josh Zaring, J Zaring Studios. Welcome back for another Watch Me Edit. This is the Raw Edit edition, and I'm going to be working in Lightroom with a children's portrait, my daughter's. So check it out. Okay, first I'm going to import these and pick some favorites. And for this raw edit, I didn't use an import preset, so I can just start from square one here. Just going to go through these and select a few. On a few of these, I took a flower petal from over here, from this rhododendron, and held it over like right up to the lens hood to get some pink hue going here, or magenta. Just gonna delete that one. I'm gonna give this one a 4. I'm gonna keep them anyway, just in case. I'm gonna give that one a 5. Eyes are out of focus on that one. And these were shot with my D610 and the 85mm 1.8G at 1.8. Hence all the lovely bokeh here. Give that one a 4. She's showing me her crooked, we call it her crooked smile. Go with this one, 45. That would have been a great one if I hadn't missed focus there. I hit focus on the hair here. Sometimes that happens. Now that one's a 5 right there. That's definite 5. Okay, now let's go back through. Just gonna check out these first few again. Give that one a 4. Right now I'm thinking for this one, putting a like kind of sun ray type thing in it, coming like with the sun coming from here, from this area down, even though you can see underneath and hair, it's coming from here. You might be able to get it to come from here artificially and look pretty cool. So I'm going to start with this one, and I'm going to just bump the clarity up just a little bit. I'm going to see what dehaze does here. I don't really want, I like the haze over here, so I don't really want to get rid of all of it, but I would like to clear it up over here, so maybe I'll just use a filter. Yeah, we're losing it. Okay, I'll just get back up here. Move my default. I usually cut the red a little bit. Usually only 10, minus 10 though. And I'm gonna bump the green up a little bit. About 30. And maybe more towards magenta, since we do have a lot of magenta in here. They get me a good starting point there. Move the contrast just a little bit. Highlights. Bump the shadows. This is what I do a lot. I'll pull the shadows out and then drop the blacks down. It's kind of like a different way of doing contrast. And for this, I'm going to bump this vibrance a little bit. Just bump it a lot. There, bump it a little bit. Pull the highlights down a little bit. Or the thing that's messing with me is flower petal is literally right here over the lens hood, and the haze it's causing is making it a little more difficult to judge my skin tones. So probably come back to this one, but for now I'm going to use. Just gonna drag this here. and use the dehaze slider. And maybe desaturate it just a little bit, because the dehaze kind of blew the colors out of the water there. Let's see what that looked like before, after. I'm gonna take this, select all these other ones here, all the ones that I gave a 4 or 5 rating to, and hit sync. And I'm going to uncheck my graduated filters, all my local adjustments, because I don't want them to be copied. I'm gonna go to this next one. Now her skin tone, it should be on point here. Yeah, I go back into camera calibration and just put that back to 0. The thing with moving the tint for the shadows is you really got to watch your skin tones, especially. It looks really nice to mess with the shadows, like the actual shadows in a photo, but when you get to like a person's face and their skin, it's gonna mess with their skin color. And that could be an effect you're going for, or it could be like a mistake. So right now, I'm gonna do a vignette around this with a radial filter. It's gonna be a lot more subtle than what you're seeing right now. I might actually take it, tilt it, and then widen it. It's gonna be more of a subtle vignette here. And I'm actually gonna use the shadows, bring in the shadows and the blacks. See how that's popping out there? And then I'll drop the exposure a tad. Okay, here's it before that and after. Pretty happy with that. See, my lines they look pretty straight. I'm just gonna check. Yeah, that's good. Now, what I do here, take my brush. I usually do this in Photoshop, but for the sake of making this a Lightroom only raw edit, I'm just gonna do it here. Just put my feather all the way up, get her face there, and then bump the highlights just enough where her eyes start to pop. Maybe pull a little bit of the shadows out. Okay. So this is the before and after of this. Just darkened her skin a little bit. Took away that raw file haze. Pretty standard edit here. And we're gonna go to this one. Take a filter from the side here, just the side angle, really bring that all the way in here. Change the highlights, exposure, and the temperature. Warm that up a little bit. And all of a sudden it looks like it's coming from the sun, where it's dark, sun, dark, sun. And you can even finish that off with like brush here, your adjustment brush with the feather still the whole way up, and just bring it from way over here. And this time you just bring the exposure up. Brightens it up a little bit. Actually, that's pretty cool there. That's kind of what I was going for, except I want to bring a little more to the side, so maybe I'll just crop it here. I usually follow the rule of thirds here. Sometimes it bothers me if I don't, and there's just seemed like too much space to the right there. So now I just go to the next image. And this one I already know. Really all I want to do is 2 radial filters. One to darken, one to lighten. I'm going to keep the darkness there at the bottom. Feather that up. Pull the shadows down, a little bit of the blacks, and then a tad of exposure, not that much. We're gonna do another one with the invert mask this time. Feather at 100%. Bring this one way out here. right over her eyes and bump the highlights on that and the shadows. See how her eyes just start to pop. With the radial filter on a face, you really got to be careful with exposure. You want to stick to the highlights and shadows if you can. I'm just going to leave them all the way up. And then here's the before after this. See a pretty big difference there. Then we'll go to the last one here. This was probably my favorite, and I'm going to leave that backlight, the backlighting from the sun and everything there, because that's what makes me like the picture. But what I am going to do here, I'm going to just look at the before after here, the raw file. Okay, that's good. What I am going to do here is just lighten her face a little bit, and I pretty much always click on the eyes unless there's a darker spot on the face. Sometimes highlights doesn't do a whole lot, but sometimes it does just enough. And I didn't use a flash or anything. It just so happened that the sun landed in all the right spots. I didn't even use a reflector. It just happened to be light on her face. Normally, I always use spot metering. Normally, I'm exposing for what I'm shooting, and then this blows out. And I got pretty fortunate. Used a fast enough shutter speed that I got her face in pretty good focus, pretty good exposure, almost perfect, and the background didn't blow out. So we got the pinks and the greens and the white and a little bit of gray there. And then here's the before after of that. Now I'm gonna go back to this one. Maybe just capitalize a little bit more on this color here. So I'm gonna go in here, scroll down here to magenta. See how I can cut that out? So just useful tip, if you want to cut magenta and purple out, there's usually not a noticeable amount in a photo unless it's lens fringing, chromatic aberration. It's usually not a color that ends up there on purpose unless you have like flowers or something like that. Something like that. So what I'm gonna do though is boost it a little bit. And it's really affecting her eyes, so I might not be able to get away with this. I really like this haze, this magenta kind of haze here. So I'm just gonna, I'm gonna put a little tone curve in here because it'll bring the haze up a little bit. Just gonna grab that, pull it up, and see what that does there. Usually what I do when I like to clean up the shadows with this, just add a little bit of haze. It's not a whole lot. I'll take another one of these. Gonna bump the saturation up a little bit, pull up the shadows, and then it's even more magenta than it was before. And there you have it. So here's the photos that I just edited. The rest I'll have to be a little bit more picky about. Here's all the before afters. And that's all there is to this one. This is a pretty simple one. If you get your camera settings right before you edit, sometimes there's not a whole lot of editing to do. And this is one of those rare occasions where I don't really have to do a lot other than manipulate the light. And you probably noticed that's basically all I did here. Darken the edges and lighten the face. And that's just to make everything pop a little bit better. I hope you enjoyed that Watch Me Edit. This is a short one, not too much to it, especially when I use the 85 at 1.8. Things usually just turn out awesome enough I don't have to do a whole lot to it. So thanks for watching. Please subscribe and tell your friends. Keep creating and keep it awesome. Join me on patreon.com to take part in special rewards like priority question and answer, Lightroom and Photoshop presets and actions, PTS videos and photos, previews for upcoming content, and even suggest ideas for tutorials. And also you have the option of being credited for your support of Jay Zaring Studios, which is really cool. Check it out at patreon.com/JayZaring.